Good afternoon, everybody. I would like to start our meeting. We have some special visitors today, and they are going to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, and we are going to also have a prayer. So come forward if you are going to participate with us. Okay, tell me what your name is.
Carly Thompson.
Hey, Carly.
Mackenzie Rogers.
Hey, Mackenzie. Okay, I'm going to hold the microphone for you, and you can get started.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you so much. Miss Diane.
Thank you. Let's bow our heads and pray. Heavenly Father, we come to you today. We thank you for your kindness and your goodness and your mercy. Lord, we acknowledge your sovereignty in this place. Lord, we lift up this meeting, each and every board member and every person present. And Father, I just thank you for your wisdom, your guidance, and a divine strategy that we will be able to come and provide for the children of these schools. We thank you in your Father's name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you so much. Okay, I'm going to call the meeting to order. Could we get a roll call vote, please?
Lynn,
Here.
Crosby,
Here.
Palazola. Here. Dell.
Here.
Burton,
Here.
Jones. Jones is not in attendance. Morris.
Here.
Smith, Vicky. Annis.
Here.
Smith, Mary. Say here.
Here.
Davis.
Here.
Muslow Hicks is not in attendance.
Okay, so at this time, we do have a quorum. Okay, next item, please.
The next item is consideration of and selection of board council, the discussion of the withdrawal of board council, selection of new council, and engagement of new council.
Okay, I'd like to have a motion.
Motion.
Ryan, thank you. Second. Thank you, David. Okay, Ronnie, would you like to give a little bit of discussion?
Yeah, Madam Chair, thank you. Members of the board, and stakeholders, the board was advised, last month that, the legal counsel for the board, Adams and Reese, as you know, is represented by Chad Griffin. And, the board, appreciates the service Mr. Griffin has provided, to date, but, he and his family made a decision, to relocate out of state, and we certainly respect that and wish him the best in his journey forward. After notification, Mr. Griffin also shared with us that we would get notification from Adams and Reese that they were interested in transitioning legal representation to another firm. So we consulted with Adams and Reese. Mr. Reed is here today, representing Adams and Reese, please do it. And so, following consultation with Mr. Reed, we engaged Mr. Larry Rodell at Rodell Parsons here in Baton Rouge. They have extensive experience representing boards of this type, and based on Mr. Reed's recommendation, Mr. Rodell's interest, I forwarded the resume, Mr. Rodell's firm, to all members, and we made that public as well. So the members feel appreciate the level of experience that Mr. Rodell and his firm could bring to this board. And we engaged with Mr. Tom Mary, who represents legal counsel, provides legal counsel for Special School District. After review, Mr. Mary provides officers that the contract that we're bringing to the board has no material changes relative to the original contract with Adams and Reese. Based on that recommendation, accepted notice from Adams and Reese, and the board agreed to contract with Lieutenant Parsons for representation of the board for the period of the contract.
Madam President. Just for a point of order, the original motion did not name the firm directly, so I'm just asking, Mr. Morris, if you would restate the motion in the form of which firm or associates would be representing the board, so it's clear for the record.
Right, so you got Dr. Bell. So the motion is that the board would accept the notice of intent from Adams and Reese, and that the board would agree to contract with Rodell Parsons going forward. And we have Mr. Larry Rodell here representing Rodell Parsons today. If the board approves the contract, then the transfer would be immediate. So Mr. Rodell and his firm would be representing the board for the remainder of the year.
So the contract is with the Rodell firm, not with the Adams and Reese firm, is that correct?
Yes, sir, that's correct.
I would second that one.
Okay, any objections? Okay, no objections, so the motion carries. Oh, any public comment about the transfer of the legal services from one firm to the other? You need to give your card to Ms. Cat in the back.
Can we see, there's several people who are sitting near the window in regards to the firm. Can we see who belongs to that firm by standing up?
Larry Rodell, with me is my law partner, Andre Bourgeois. We greatly appreciate this opportunity to earn your trust over time. We're thankful for leading this firm to help us through the transition. They've been extremely cooperative, and it's good to be with you all.
Do you have a comment?
I do.
Okay, you can come
Where should I stand?
right here and be on.
Okay. Don't need the mic, thank you. Okay, want to see me all right in the back? Like this? One more? Okay. My name is Nigel. I'm a dark-skinned person with black hair, wearing a War Eagles t-shirt, representing LSD. My question was, there was a public release about the new lawyers being hired, but I didn't see anything on Facebook or on the website. So where did you post that release of information? Secondly, I am hoping that the new law firm is able to provide the best services that we were able to. I feel that Chaz often limited our public comments and often put it into executive session. A lot of negative, one moment. So again, as Chaz was a lawyer previously, he was given out a last minute to the board. He led executive sessions in regards to termination or really one termination and one refusal to sign a contract, which led to a lot of negative perception. So I'm hoping that the new law firm is able to come out with a more positive perception, and I look forward to that.
Thank you, Nigel. Okay. Okay, didn't hear, any objections from the board. So the motion passes. Okay, next, I just wanna, do a couple of reminders for everybody about, public comment. And if you look at the, on your agenda at the bottom, the public comment policy, members of the public shall be allowed to speak on items presented for action consistent with the board's public comment policy and for a time period to be determined at the board's discretion. At this time, we have decided that 3 minutes would be our time limit unless extra time is needed for anybody who needs extra time. All right, and then number 2, the board reserves the right to enter into executive session if needed in accordance with LARS 4216 and 4217, the open meeting law. And also in accordance with the Americans with Disabilities Act, if you need special assistance regarding the meeting, you can contact Katie Shepherd. Okay, next item, please.
Madam Chairperson, there is, the next item is consideration of and selection of the superintendent of the special school district with public interviews of candidates by the board.
Madam Chair, motion that, we entertain this item.
Okay, thank you, David. All right, SSA Consultants is here today, and that is who we contracted with for our entire process. And we want them to come forward so they can give you some in-depth explanations of this process and how we have moved forward to get to this point today. Thank you, Christelle.
Thank you, President Flynn. Thank you, board members, members of the public, and our hardworking administrators and staff. We were honored to be selected for this project. We have done numerous searches in the public sector and know that they are oftentimes highly visible, highly watched, and that oftentimes there are very strong feelings about the organization and the mission and the process and selection of the candidates and eventually, in this case, the next superintendent. So we thought we would spend just a minute or two on the process to remind people where we have been and how we've gotten to this point. Shortly after we were contacted, we asked the board through the personnel committee to develop a job description and a profile that we could use for our search process that could be widely distributed and posted on the website, and that those very specifically would include the minimum qualifications for the position at hand, the superintendent's position. There was much deliberation about that, but we were very soon afterwards given a very good job description that was comprehensive but very clear about reporting relationships, the scope of the work, and the characteristics and preferred qualifications for candidates. We took that, we developed some flyers and email requests from well-recognized people in the field. We posted the job profile and ad on Indeed and on CEASD, as well as other bulletin boards and associations. We sent the job description to as many associations that were related to the stakeholder groups who have a great deal of passion about the SSD. And then we began to do a lot of networking and recruiting of candidates. We know that good candidates are not always looking for a job. They are very happy where they are. And so our attempt is always to dislodge them and get them at least interested, because good candidates usually know other good candidates. So we did have some success there, and that process really continued throughout the entire search process until the deadline, because we were continuing to get stakeholder input during that time as well. The way we developed input, the processes for input was multifaceted. We did have 2 different surveys. One survey was for employees, and there was also an online survey available through the website that we tried to publicize, and I think got a fair amount of input really on both of those. We did key stakeholder outreach, as we were either contacted directly by a stakeholder group or heard from board members or personnel committee members and even staff that there were questions. We tried to reach out to the stakeholders, and probably one of 2 of the most important things that we did was we had multiple on-site visits here on campus with faculty, administrative staff, cafeteria staff, et cetera, et cetera. That was extremely helpful. That is where we heard the realities of the school, the needs, the desires, really filtered through the people who have been here sometimes for a very long period of time. And the emphasis on special education training by the candidates and administration of special education. We had a public town hall meeting. I recognize some people in the audience who came and gave of their time and were very helpful and made public comments, as well as afterwards with the chair of the personnel committee for continued discussion. When we closed the application process, we had received about 80 resumes. We narrowed those down to what we felt were the most highly qualified, and then did resume verification, administered a leadership instrument called the Hogan Basis, and conducted social media checks and reference checks. We continue to meet with the personnel committee more frequently towards the end of this process, and they helped to narrow down the list to a handful of candidates. We conducted screening interviews, and then had formal screening Zoom interviews with the candidates who were named. The personnel committee then deliberated and chose 3 to bring forward today to the public and the board. And we have worked with the candidates to know what to expect, to understand the round robin of today, to be able to meet people and listen to their thoughts and desires for their next superintendent, their visions for the school. Now we are getting ready to have a panel interview where all 3 candidates will be interviewed in a round robin fashion by board members. So a slight peek into that process. We do have established questions. They will be distributed by the board members, and each candidate will have 4 minutes total to answer the question. 3 minutes, they'll be given a warning that there's only 1 minute remaining, and then at 4 minutes, their time will be up. And we will rotate the order of the questions so that no one has an advantage or disadvantage being first or last. So we thank you all for being here. There will be another opportunity for public comment, and we look forward to having a successful panel interview. President Flynn.
Okay, at this time, we're going to bring the candidates in. and we have some established questions. And I'm going to begin with Mr. Morris.
Thank you, Madam President. I think the way we'd like to kick off the panel discussion is we'd like to give each one of our panelists an opportunity to introduce themselves to the stakeholder group. I think what we've done is we're going to go right to the left, and we're going to give each one of our candidates 3 minutes. So help me out with who's keeping the time there so that everyone's well advised. There we
We
go.
have a timekeeper, and she has cards that she can hold up in 3 minutes.
Great.
And 4 minutes, I will have to do.
So we're going to say 4 minutes, is that what I heard? Total? Okay. You can make yourself comfortable. And you have up to 4 minutes. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. I am Ross Williams. I'm a native of Natchitoches, Louisiana. I currently reside in DeSoto, Texas, in the DFW Metroplex. I have been in education over 15 plus years, working directly with children and impacting student achievement by providing support, by building the capacity of our leadership teams in various underserved communities. I had an opportunity after Katrina to come back and help reform the education system in New Orleans, Louisiana, as a part of the New Leaders to New Schools program. I will be completing my doctorate in June 4th and graduating without completing the doctorate, but I will be walking June 4th. So I'm excited about that because I think you need to be a lifelong learner, and you are a model for those people that you supervise that look up to you, as well as those scholars that we currently serve. So it's an honor to be here today, and I look forward to the questions.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Marissa Marsh. I am a native of Atlanta, Georgia. I've been in education doing a variety of different things. I started off as a special education teacher in Atlanta Public Schools. I've been a special education coordinator, a program manager for special education. I attended law school in Baton Rouge. I went to Southern. I'm a proud Southern law grad where I focused on special education law, practicing in the area of education law for about a year before I decided I missed these 4 babies and wanted to come back and work with them. I am currently the chief academic officer at a charter school in Pittsburgh, where I work with our academic team to be able to set rigorous academic targets for all of the scholars, ensuring that every scholar leaves our school prepared to go on a pathway to college, career, and beyond. Though I always ran from education, I found that education is what I want to do, what I continue to do, and I look forward to introducing myself and getting to share some of my plans with you all through these questions. Thank you so much.
Good afternoon, everyone. I appreciate the opportunity to be in front of you today and talk about this very important role of being the superintendent of the special school district. My name is David Martin, and I'm in my 17th year as an educator, and of those, for the past close to 13 years, I've been an administrator. Currently, for the past 6 years, I have been serving as the superintendent at the Tennessee School for the Blind in Nashville, Tennessee. That's a school for the blind that serves the entire state. Currently, we have about 130 students in our school that we're serving in the center, and then about 190 students that we're serving out within the districts through our itinerant program. Prior to becoming the superintendent of the Tennessee School for the Blind, I served 7 years working with military-connected children as an administrator with the Department of Defense school system. I served as a principal, assistant principal, and curriculum coordinator. I started out as a curriculum coordinator and supported 17 schools in the Kentucky district, and then I had the opportunity to be an assistant principal, which took me overseas to our Navy base there in Naples, Italy, and then back to Kentucky to be principal at a middle school and then to elementary schools. Prior to that, I was a high school social studies teacher. Also, I'm a recovering social studies teacher. But before becoming an educator, I had the chance to work my way through my undergrad at a personal injury law firm in Nashville, and I will not use the joke I've used twice today again. So, well, I will. Then the rec can get you a check. So I'm just really excited about the opportunity. I appreciate the board having me down to discuss this position. I appreciate everybody's time and attention today during the round robin visits. It's been a busy day, and I look forward to answering the questions and giving you an opportunity to learn a little more about me. Thank you.
Okay, board members, each of you have the final interview questions. And if you can get those out, and the interview questions will actually start with me. And
You're going to switch order. We'll begin with Mr. Martin, then Ms. March, Mr. Williams, and then in the second question, we'll start with Ms. March, Mr. Williams, Mr. Martin, and then continue time limit. In the time limit, you get 4 minutes to answer the question. You will seek a 3-minute warning, which will tell you that you have 1 minute left, and then there will be 1 minute and an hour.
okay, so I am going to begin the process with the first question. All right. As you know, the Louisiana Special School District encompasses the Louisiana School for the Deaf, the Louisiana School for the Visually Impaired, and 12 special education programs, 3 mental health programs, and a behavioral health program. Tell us how you would staff appropriately to complement your background and experience and ensure excellence in each of these areas. All right, David, we will start with you.
I think it's safe to say that whoever takes this position is going to have to wear all the hats. How I would go about building a team, really, and I think that any good leader has to surround themselves with folks that know more than they do. And especially in those particular areas. You cannot be an expert in all things, especially when you're dealing with special education and all of the things that falls under that umbrella. So I think that with each one of those programs, I would make sure that we have folks in place that are very knowledgeable in those areas. We're going to have to start right here with the School for the Visually Impaired and the School for the Deaf. Both are currently needing new leaders at the school level. So it's going to be very imperative that we go out and do an exhaustive search to get folks that really understand those populations. I think that the district needs to push a lot of the control for those instructional decisions to the school level, because that's where your experts are, and that's where the rubber meets the road, and that's where those decisions are being made. Now, that doesn't mean that we don't provide oversight and make sure that quality education is going on in every classroom that we serve. But I don't pretend to be an expert in all things special education. I do have a lot of, when I came to the School for the Blind, I had no vision experience. But over the last 6 years, I've learned a lot. And I've been able to become a very strong advocate for that community. And I think that it's very important for whoever takes this position to come in with an open mind, listen to the experts that are in those classrooms, and be able to make sure that they put together a team that really complements them. So making sure that I would, recruit folks that know more about that stuff than I do in those particular areas. Thank you.
I believe that the hiring process, you have to have a lot of collaboration. I would like to start by forming a team, working first with the administration to figure out what are the gaps that currently exist in the school. From there, I'd like to bring in those who are actually doing the work every day. So bringing in teacher-led teams, students who are able to give some input on what they are looking for and those who are coming in to educate them. Being able to develop a plan for the parents as well. Because at the end of the day, if we're not able to form a trifecta of parents, students, and teachers to be able to provide the education for children, we're missing out. Once we figure out what we're looking for, I think we have to sometimes leave the state of Louisiana. There are a lot of partnerships that we can have with a lot of the local colleges and universities in the state. However, those aren't right now fulfilling the needs and the gaps that we have. I reach out to different superintendents in other areas, different educational organizations in other areas to try to find quality candidates for all of our students. I have a variety of different friends who are in many educational things, whether it's TNCP, the LRCE that's local here, and other teacher organizations who are looking to fulfill those pathways and close those pathways so that those teachers have an avenue and have jobs. The other thing that is specific here is that there needs to be more training and support. So are we able to find teachers who are passionate about children but may lack the specific skills? Can we bring them in during the summer to try to build up their skills and then create individualized teacher plans for those teachers so that when they get in front of students in the school year, they're providing that quality, high rigorous education for the scholars and are consistently learning. So for me, it's about collaboration to make sure that we are forming and looking for the best candidates. It's going outside and thinking outside of the box and how we're getting those candidates. And then once we get in here, providing them the best quality training so that they are staying, building the relationships with scholars and families to provide the highest quality education for our scholars.
First and foremost, being that this is a big concern not only within the city of Baton Rouge, but it's a United States issue as it relates to the shortage of teachers. Those communities specifically, as a native of Louisiana, I recognize there's an importance of hiring individuals within that community. However, it is very challenging to hire individuals in those rural areas. So doing so, we need to build a pipeline. Some of my colleagues also alluded to some of the strategies that I will actually utilize as well. Cast a wide net in order to recruit some of the highest candidates. But there needs to be a pay scale that will attract those individuals within those rural areas. We have to be realistic about the approach when it comes to hiring qualified people with the credentials needed to be successful in those particular areas. So we would have to do some site visits, talk to the officials in that community, get to know and network with those people on staff about the specific needs of those campuses. It's very important that we prepare those individuals with the tools that are necessary for them to be successful. And in doing so, the professional development is a critical component in assuring them an easy transition within those areas, but also in those school sectors. It's very important that as superintendent that I am the person or whoever is in that position takes the initiative to be the voice for the communities that we currently serve and let them know how important it is to have the appropriate people in position to make sure that we have tier 1 instruction occurring in every classroom that we're serving.
Please share with us your 5-year vision for the Louisiana Special School District, highlighting areas such as student achievement levels, staff and teacher retention, enrollment, and parental engagement.
In order for us to look 5 years out, we have to be able to set some very rigorous goals. So the first thing before I think what I would do is be able to analyze where we stand right now, and then think where we need to be in 5 years. In terms of parent engagement, I want 100% of our parents to be engaged in the education of their students. So what I would start doing is hosting my own town halls with different families at a variety of different times. We understand that our families are working on the weekends, they're sometimes working at night. So being able to set virtual town halls, in-person town halls, to get parent participation, to hear what they're trying to say. Being able to set up parent surveys so we can hear from the parents on what they're satisfied with, what they are looking for, and the hopes that they have for their scholars. When it comes to retaining and keeping teachers, it's the same thing. We need to be able to create pipelines where we're able to get teachers who want to come into the districts, no matter where they are in the state, and provide that high-quality education. However, we also must ensure that once we have teachers here, that we're listening to their voices and hearing their concerns, and then putting up situations and solutions to the problems that they are bringing up. When teachers are heard, they want to stay in the same school district and work with the children. So being able to set up a plan to allow them to be heard is imperative. In terms of recruitment and enrollment at the school, it's reaching out to the different districts to let them know that we are here, that we can provide the highest quality education for scholars. As I was talking to some of the people today, some people say that the schools in the special school district would be more restricted. However, when our scholars are out there, they are not being provided the proper education or being provided with the things that they need in their home school districts, it actually becomes more restricted for them to be in those home school districts. Letting families know, letting other school districts know that we have the proper places for their scholars is imperative. Because when they go here, we're thinking about the scholars as individuals, being able to provide them the opportunities that they may not get at their home school districts. So we're going to sit down with a variety of different families to figure out what they're looking for. Each year, we're going to set rigorous academic targets to ensure that we are going above and beyond what the state has. The state has nice goals for scholars, but my goal is to go above and beyond what the state has. So we look at the current data, then we look out where do we need to be in a year, achieve those goals, and we keep moving out until we have that 5-year plan. The other things that we might have to do is make sure that we are building partnerships with some of the colleges and universities, some of the other programs in the state, to make sure that we have a building block and a support system to be able to achieve those goals. A lot of the times people want to work in silos, but I realize that when you are using collaboration across the state, you're able to provide a plan and a support system to scholars that make sure that you're hitting them where they are, but making sure that you're able to push them above and beyond. So those are the things that I would do to make sure in the next 5 years, we have teachers that are coming in, teachers that are staying with the scholars, that we've built the parent engagement around the district, and that we're hitting those high academic goals, where people are coming to us to say, what are you all doing in the small school district to be able to outgain the state?
As a leader, it's very important to be strategic as it relates to goal setting. And in being strategic, you must not have too many goals on the plate. What I focus on is 3 big rocks. 3 things that are imperative that we can be successful at and measure in time constraints, whether it be short-term goals or long-term goals. What the board has done, along with the other stakeholders, they already have developed a strategic plan. As superintendent, I, along with the cabinet will review that plan to see where we need to move forward as it relates to our 3 to 5 year goals. Do an internal assessment to make sure that we are heading in the right direction. And if not, it's a living document where we can transform or make the necessary changes that need to happen. Around accountability, it's extremely important to develop the skill set for those teachers within the classroom to ensure that they have Tier 1 instruction in every classroom in every area that we're currently serving. By doing so, you have to build the capacity of your leadership team to support those teachers in those various roles. When you're thinking about developing your teachers, there has to be an assessment, evaluation process where the principals are going in on a daily basis to assure that high-level instruction is occurring on a day-to-day basis. And they're having those candid conversations around accountability, test scores, data analysis, and data disaggregation, making prescriptive decisions of support for teachers, but more specifically prescriptive decisions as it relates to student achievement and outcomes. Supporting those students and supplying them the resources that they need, and support in the area of time management, facilitation of learning, and support with the materials and resources that they need to be successful. It is critical that we talk to our parents and get them involved because they are important in this process. They're important because there's a constant communication that should occur with the teachers, but also at the district level. The superintendent should be able to be a part of the community, whereas they are out in the public as far as community outreach in the forms of Zoom meetings, town hall meetings, opportunities that really get clear input of those community stakeholders that support not only the schools, but more specifically our children. One of the philosophies that I have is that the mindset of adults have to change before student outcomes change. So true transformation occurs when our mindset changes. The genesis of change begins from within. So it starts with us as adults, board members, then the superintendent, the cabinet, and down to the instructional level. We all must work together in efforts to support those outcomes that are necessary for students to be successful in accountability issues and rise to the occasion as far as our success in accountability.
So I've had the opportunity to talk a little bit today about what I would do coming in as the new superintendent for the SSD. And I think that when you talk about planning, one of my colleagues mentioned that you have to first know exactly where you're at. And when I went to Tennessee School for the Blind, I found a school that was really struggling. There was significant issues around climate and culture there. So I started with just talking with everyone. I had 180 employees and I met with every single one of them. And those meetings lasted everywhere from 5 minutes to 2 hours, depending on how much they had to say. And so I was able to get, and what that did was it really started out when you just wanted to get to know folks, because I really believe in leading through relationships. But what it really turned into is a SWOT analysis. And I was able to really get a good handle on what our strengths were, what our weaknesses were, where we had some opportunities and some serious threats that we had going on. And so that's sort of how I sort of started engaging that. But then you have to bring in those stakeholders and be collaborative, because this is not David Martin's 5-year strategic plan for the SSD. These schools don't belong to me. They belong to the kids and the families that we serve. And so bringing their voices to the table was very important for me. And so that's one of the things that I was able to do. Now, as far as student achievement, we had to really look, because we are dealing with very specific populations that have their own unique needs and challenges. And so, again, not being a vision expert when I came into TSB, I just listened to folks and where we needed to go. I knew we needed to bring that rigor up in the classroom. So one of the things that we really looked at doing was revamping our RTI process, our response to intervention, that tiered intervention piece. That was very important for us. We also really worked on providing opportunities for tutoring. So not just the response to intervention, but regular student tutoring. And we were actually recognized this past year as a best for all district by the Department of Ed in Tennessee because of our work around how we use our ESSER funds to make low dose, high dosage, low ratio tutoring a possibility at our school, and we're actually serving as a model now for the state. Staff retention. TSU was hemorrhaging folks when I got there. A significant amount of turnover, but within the first year and a half, we were able to cut that by 50%. And we did that because we addressed the climate and culture issues that were plaguing our problems, our building. If the climate and culture is not right in school, then everything else is so far, it's very difficult to get anything else accomplished. So we had to make people feel good about coming to work, feel good about being in the school. I had to clean the school up and just make some significant improvements to the working environment. But we were able to do that, and again, we heard that staff turnover and volume in the process. So we actually had a true teacher leadership team in place. As far as enrollment, we've seen a positive increase since becoming superintendents because I hit the road and told folks about what we were doing. And I met with all the superintendents throughout the state. And parental engagement, that's difficult for every school. But I think, if anything, COVID taught us is we've learned ways to think outside the box and use those specific tools that we have now to engage those folks.
I believe this question will be addressed to Mr. Ross first. Some of our graduates will begin their career path right out of high school. Others will go straight to college. How would you define career or college readiness for students in a special school district?
Having opportunities that allow them to be successful is critical. And being able to do that is providing them clear opportunities at the campus level before they actually leave the campus level. On today, we had an opportunity to talk about the CTE program and how successful it was. They talked about the Department of Agriculture and the teacher that facilitates that particular program. I talked about a multimedia program because specifically there is a need to have that type of technology and integration within the actual campus level, because our students, as we know, this new generation is still around technology, graphics design, multimedia. Practical experience is critical. And from what I heard on today, there have been situations in the past that was implemented very well with fidelity, and it needs to happen again. As a part of me touring the actual campus and seeing the graphics department that is no longer being utilized, because unfortunately, that particular teacher resigned or retired, I think, if I'm correct. It is important to provide those experiences, those field experiences for those students, whereas they're prepared and ready to go into the workforce and be competitive with anyone else outside of this particular school. They need to have the confidence to know that they will be successful in the community, to be able to communicate effectively, to be able to be a strong workforce and a need for their services as a part of that community. It starts with practical application, providing those new programs that are going to excite them, motivate them to go out into the workforce and be productive citizens in the United States.
You mind repeating the question just one more time for me?
Sure. Some of our graduates will begin their career path right out of high school. Others will choose to go straight to college from high school. My question is, how would you define career or college readiness for students in a special school district?
I think it's first important to realize that we need to create unique opportunities sometimes for our particular student populations. When I came to TSB, there was really no CTE program to speak of. One of the big opportunities for students that are blind or visually impaired is to participate or to work in the blind vending program, which is protected under the Randolph-Shepard Act throughout the United States. And so we have had a reading program for years, but it was never really truly articulated in a way that it made a complete sense. So we actually developed a 4-year program, course of study, where students get the hard skills and the soft skills required to be successful with that, and the soft skills that would be required to be successful in pretty much any industry or business. And we actually wrote the curriculum, and it is an official approved state CTE program. It's the first blind-specific CTE program ever created for the state of Tennessee. And so creating opportunities for like that for students are very important. And so making sure that they have the skills that they need for whatever pathway. I'm getting ready to sign an MOU with AP Access for All, so that those students that are that have the ability to take those AP courses, we have that as an option at the school. We are going to be pulling in a second CTE program called Teaching as a Profession in our school starting next year, so that students that are interested in going into education and being educators have a pathway for that to get prepared for that post-secondary experience. We've been able to double the number of work-based learning opportunities in the last 5 years for our students. It was difficult during COVID because I had to pull the kids back, but as soon as we could, we pushed them back out there so that they could get those practical experiences. And when I got there, janitorial and restaurant work were the only 2 work-based learning opportunities that we had. Now I have students at the National Library, I have folks at the YMCA, so we're really increasing those work-based learning opportunities. And I've got a nonprofit that has agreed to take on some interns starting next year, and a event planning company that's going to come in and do some project-based learning with our kids based specifically on the prom and all the aspects that go into event planning. So providing those practical experiences both on campus and then pushing them off campus. Because ultimately, the world is, they have to learn how to navigate this world no matter whatever exceptionalities that they may have. And so putting them out there and getting them in those real world experiences is very, very, very important. And again, when you give diplomas, you have different tracks. You have to make sure that you support each one of those tracks. And so those kids that are university bound, making sure that we get them their courses and those advanced level courses that they need to be successful. And then we have students that are, may have more significant needs, and making sure that we bring shelter workshop activities like the PACE labs and the things like that, which provide those real work experiences. So making sure that we hit the full gamut of students is critical in the success of our students, and preparing them for that post-secondary success, whatever it may be.
When I was in high school, on the very first day of our freshman year, we had to fill out a form. The form asked us what we wanted to do when we graduated. Now, as a 14-year-old ninth grader, I was like, I have no idea. But I wrote something on that form that pretty much said I wanted to go to college. Didn't know which one, didn't know what I was planning on doing. Some of my classmates wrote about the careers that they wanted to have. Every Friday, we were able to meet with our advisor, who from the time we were freshmen in high school to the very day that we graduated, helped us prepare for whatever our pathway was. It was because our teachers and our admin listened to us that the majority of us were able to hit our targets. I went on to graduate from a 4-year college because that was my plan. One of my good friends said, I'm not going to college, I know how to do computer science by myself. And he started the Monday after we graduated working at a computer science company. He's now the owner of his own little computer science company where he does all types of things where I'm like, David, I need your help with the computer, can you please fix it? And he just does that. And so one of the things here that I think we have to do is listen to the scholars. What do they want to do? And from there, we work to create pathways and experiences for them. For those scholars that are saying, I want to take AP classes, we are working to ensure that we have the AP classes for them that they want to take. We have to be able to open it up past a certain few courses that may be offered, ELA, AP English 11, AP English 12, maybe the statistics class, to open it up to whatever they have to have. So we're looking to see what partnerships we can bring in to make sure we have those at the campus. For scholars that are saying that they want to take career pathways, there are a million of them that we can create. Do we have to go out and work hard to be able to find curriculum that may support that, experiences in the community that may aid to that? Yes, it's going to be hard, but it's something that we have to do. One of the things when I was a principal at a middle school is I said we have to have experiential learning. So I had kids that said, I want to be a chef. So what did we do? We found restaurants that would let you come in and start peeling potatoes. And so that's what they did on the weekends. They went and they peeled potatoes. And as they got older, they were able to work in a greater capacity. So that when they were graduating, not only did they have the experience of working in the career that they wanted to, but they knew the ups and downs of what would happen in those careers, so they were better prepared. On our side, what we had to do is we had to look at the different pathways to education, and we prepared them to do that. You want to be a hairstylist? Okay. Perhaps you want to take the traditional path and go to cosmetology school, but perhaps you want to be a chemistry major. So we're going to look at all of those things that the scholars need to be able to do and prepare everyone to do so. Finally, what we were able to do when I was in high school that I would love to bring here is just the advisory meetings where we're able to do a progress check at the end of every quarter to see, are our goals still the same and are we still working to achieve those goals? If goals are changing, we make changes to the plan based on the scholar's needs and the scholar's wants. If we're not on track to hitting those goals, we come up with a plan to get the scholar on track. At the end of the day, when the scholar graduates, whether they go to college or career, they are prepared when they get there with the best academic education, as much experience as we can put in front of them, and the most independence we can send them along with.
Actually, I'm gonna ask a question. Dr. Martin's going first, so. Think of a time when you realized that your school community, students, teachers, and staff needed your support and compassion. How did you demonstrate your commitment and support of them?
So probably one of the most difficult things I've ever gone through as a school administrator is the year prior to COVID, we had a student pass away. And the student was at school and complained of a headache. That student had a shunt, so we immediately sent them to the hospital, and unfortunately, things did not go well. That brought our community to our knees, because that young man was a light when he walked through the hallways. And so I really had to pull together some supports. Being a small school, we have 2 counselors, we have a social worker. So I had to call Dr. Battle. Adrian Battle is the Metro Nashville Public School Superintendent. And I said, Adrian, I need you to send me some people. We need some help here because we've got more kids upset than I can handle and more staff members upset. So we immediately mobilized the team. And throughout the process, I think it was very important for me to ensure that we kept those supports in place as long as they needed to be in place. I think it was very important for me to show compassion to our families who were concerned, and obviously when a student passes away, that may call into question the mortality of their own children. And so that was very important. And I had to be there for that family. And probably the hardest thing I ever had to do was represent our school. I wasn't the only one there, but I was the one chosen to speak at that young man's memorial service. And I think that I just tried my best to provide comforting words and relay the fact that what a blessing that child was for our school and what he brought to our school. And so that's probably one of the most difficult times that I've ever had to really support my staff. But it really took mobilization of the team. It wasn't just me, but keeping those supports in place as long as it was needed. And it took us some time, and we created an award. He was an athlete, so we created an award in the young man's name, and that we give out every year. His parents actually come to represent that, so we keep them connected to the school. But that, I think it's just really important that and I'm an empathetic person, and I really try to, again, lead through relationships, so getting to know people is very important to me, and when you do that, you really understand how you can better support folks in whatever they're doing, whether it's going through crisis or whether it's celebrating a success. Building those strong relationships with the folks that I work with has been key to my success and making sure that I provide the support both in good times and in bad.
In the fall of 2021, I was a principal in New Orleans, and the storm hit. We were already recovering from COVID. You see my school is in New Orleans East, which, if you were familiar with that in the COVID breaks, it was on track right with Italy. A lot of my families had already been devastated with the loss of multiple family members. One family in particular lost 17 different family members just because they were all living in the same few houses in the East. And so we are coming back together as a community when this devastating storm hits. People are in a whole lot of different places. I went to South Carolina because that's where my in-laws were. A lot of my families were in Atlanta. Some went to Houston, some came up to Baton Rouge. We got the call back from our executive director who said it's time to come back to New Orleans. And this was the same time that the mayor was saying, if you do not have to come back to New Orleans, do not come back. Because we don't know what you're coming back to. There's not electricity in the city. A lot of roofs are missing. Houses are completely torn down. So as we're getting the directive to come back, I had to call my ED and say, I'm not sure what's happening in your house in Baton Rouge, but I'm looking at the maps, and based off of where our school is, based off of where my families are, they would be coming back to no electricity, and they can't. It just simply cannot happen. And so after a lot of going back and forth, he was like, okay, we'll put it off for a week. He said that the teachers need to get back here. I said, the teachers are no different than my parents and my family. The teachers can't come back to having no electricity and come back to the school to prepare to put themselves in front of scholars as well, because they have things that they have to worry about. Our executive director finally listened to me and said, okay, we'll bring everyone back in a week, and then we'll start school 3 days after that. What I did during that time is I sent out an email to my teachers and started texting teachers, what do you need? Because I know that things have happened. My house, I live in Slidell, I'm okay, but I know a lot of you all live directly where the storm hit. And what I got back were, I need clothes, I need food, I don't have the basics, my car got destroyed. Thank God I worked for a huge district that was based out in Texas, and so what the principals and I did is we got together and we said, we have a list, and we have a need. And we reached out to the boards in Texas and the principals in Texas to say, we need your help. People do not have food, they do not have clothing, and until they have those things, they cannot come back into the school building. Children cannot come back into the school building. So Texas sent some help. They sent packs of food on trucks. They went through all of the teachers. We had a Give Me Five program, and teachers started donating money. And so what we were able to do is we were able to say to a teacher, here's $1,000 that was sent from IDEA in Houston. Do with it what you need to do. So from there, we were able to provide the teachers the basic things that they needed. From then, the teachers started saying, we can do this for ourselves and we can do this for the families. So we were able to reach out to different families to say, okay, I can donate some clothes here. You know someone who can let someone borrow a car. And we were able to do that to support our families. In the end, everyone got the things that they needed. So when we were able to come back to school, that brought us together more as a team and family. because they knew if something happens and you're a member of the IDEA Oscar Dunn Team and Family, not only are the teachers going to help, but the admin is going to put themselves on the line to assist as well. And then people from the outside community of the school are going to be able to help. It was a really difficult time. We were, very blessed and fortunate that no one was injured during the storm. It was just the physical things that we needed, like houses and clothes and things like that. But it really brought us together as a family.
I think as a leader or anyone in school leadership has been impacted by death or some form of childhood trauma as well. Multiple incidents that causes the principal, the superintendent to be concerned and be passionate and have a need to step forward and support wherever is needed. There are multiple incidents, and one that came to mind was a childhood trauma for a young lady. A young lady that walked into school every day, hair uncombed, clothes that she wore were, dirty, soiled. She had an offensive odor, what have you. And that particular child, we found out later, had been molested. She had been physically abused, mentally abused, verbally abused. And it was not only a shock to me as an individual, but it was our entire community was aware of it, what was going on, or what was happening. This young lady was coming to school every day and was being brought to school every day by the one that was the perpetrator of the offenses. And as the administrator and knowing this, we did everything in our power to make sure that that young lady was provided a safe haven when she was there. We followed the protocols and reported, and for some reason they always allowed the child to go back into that environment. And that was probably one of the hardest things that I've ever had to deal with in my life, to know that that young lady was receiving that type of pain mentally, physically, and emotionally on a day-to-day basis. But again, we are the caretakers. We're with those children 24/7. We try to make their lives a better life that they ever had. We do whatever we can as administrators by providing the support, counseling services, mental health services, and protection. And sometimes it still falls through the crack. And it's so hard. It would be nice for me to say that we fixed the problem, but we didn't. We put a Band-Aid on it. We tried to make it look better than what it was. But I'm still upset about the ability that I was not able to do to support that young lady in the way that I wanted to. But I wanted to make sure when she was safe, for those 8 hours of the day, she knew she was loved, she was taken care of, and she had a family that she could always trust in coming to. The challenges that we face as leaders is monumental. Like my colleague said about New Orleans and the trauma that occurred after Hurricane Katrina. When the lightning struck, students began to have all kinds of trauma and attacks, wanting to run out of the building. We face those on a day-to-day basis. We have to equip our staff with the tools that they need to identify those things and give them the tools to support those incidents that are happening. And to actually be able to see and report those incidents happening immediately. I don't have an answer for that particular situation, but I do know that as a superintendent and administrator, I want to make sure that our students always have a safe environment where they know that they're loved, they're taken care of, and they have people that are committed to serve them the way they should be served.
Our next question is, if you're chosen to be the superintendent of the Louisiana Special School District, how would you foster a strong learning environment for students and ensure teacher effectiveness?
I think in order to have a strong learning environment, the first thing that you need to have are teachers who are knowledgeable in their content. So the first thing that I like to do is start with a very strong professional development that happens during the summer. During that time, we're able to go over our goals for the school year and set up the plan that we have to be able to achieve those goals. From there, we dive into the curriculum, ensuring that all of the teachers understand the different aspects of the curriculum, how we tweak the curriculum to be effective for the scholars that we have, any exit tickets that we change to make sure that the curriculum is aligned to the rigor of the exams that our scholars have to have, and also the rigor of life. From there, I work with the academic lead team to ensure that when teachers are teaching, that first, they are academically prepared. We like to do a coaching cycle where I come from. So the questions that we're asking is, what should students be learning? In order to answer that question, we're looking at our lesson plans to make sure that they are rigorous. Has the teacher academically prepared? Have we added the things in the lesson plans that allow a teacher to know when there's a misconception, when they need to push something, when there may be a gap, when a scholar has struggled, or where they can cut? Once we've given that lesson plan feedback, we might do a lesson rehearsal, because as I say, you don't practice in front of children, you teach in front of them. I've taught many lessons to my couch before they have ever seen a child. After we've done that, I work with the instructional team to be able to go and do observations. These are not gotcha moments, but times where we're able to collect low inference data to see, are students learning what they're supposed to be learning? So from there, we're not using our opinions, we're taking facts. So 6 out of 7 students answered this correctly. The teacher said this, the student responded this way. We're able to take that low inference data and work together to norm to answer that question. If students were able to learn what they were supposed to be learning, then we've done our job. Most of the time, that's not going to happen, and so there we're able to come up with small bite-sized action steps for teachers based on the gaps. During the instructional coaching meetings, the instructional coaches meet with the teachers to be able to help them learn their action step. I like to do a see it, name it, do it. So I like to come in, we'll record a little bit of the lesson to allow a teacher to see the gap. Then we name the gap with a what and a how action step. What is the gap, and then what are the steps that we take to fill the gap, and then we practice it. So if we need to have more aggressive monitoring and data collection, we're practicing what that looks like in the classroom. Then we go back in the classroom and we're observing it. So it's that cycle happening all over again. What are students supposed to be learning? Are they learning it? If not, why not? From there, we're able to see those academic gains, close any academic gaps, and address any misconceptions that scholars have to be able to hit our rigorous academic goals for the end of the year.
Around student accountability and supporting instructional teams to be successful. It starts off first and foremost with hiring the right individual. Making sure that we are recruiting those individuals that have the content knowledge and the ability to teach what needs to be taught based upon the curriculum. Along with hiring those individuals, we should provide immediate support in the realm of professional development and learning. And during the summer months, it needs to be intensive, but it needs to be prescriptive. Because you have individuals that are currently existing on staff that are very knowledgeable in their content areas. So it has to be prescriptive for your staff. You need to be able to identify those staff members that are seasoned professionals that are good and can serve as mentors to those individuals that are coming into your systems to assure that they are supported. When you think about any decision that's made as it relates to accountability and making sure that teachers are successful, we focus on data-driven decisions. We must analyze the data. We have data rooms, whereas we're constantly on a 6-week cycle where we actually analyze the data and see where students are. We meet with those teachers, either they're in grade level or departments or individually based upon the assessments that we receive. And there's prescriptive instruction that needs to occur based on the actual data that we receive. From there may be a time where there needs to be support for that particular teacher, where you have mentor teachers to go in and support with modeling lessons on how to deliver Tier 1 instruction. And that's based on the need of those individual teachers. You basically tier those teachers just like you would tier students and give them the support that they actually need for them to be successful. There's a constant monitoring through observation and feedback that principals, those administrators must do on a daily basis. That needs to be at least 90% of their role, to focus on instructional leadership and building the capacity of their teachers to be able to have Tier 1 instruction in those classrooms. That constant feedback is needed as it relates to quick and immediate feedback to walkthrough and so forth. Less evaluation, but more walkthrough and prescriptive support to assure their success and accountability. Also, you want to include those students. The students also need to be coached and accountable for their results. Teachers coach their students and talk to them about the data that is received based upon the assessment. And they develop a plan just like the teacher develops a plan to assure that they're successful. And there's constant monitoring. We already know that what is not monitored does not get done.
As a superintendent, I really try to be visible in the classrooms and do walkthroughs, and so that I get a good understanding of what's going on in the classrooms. But I think, particularly thinking about being the new superintendent of the special school district, it's going to be important first to establish strong leadership in those schools and recruit folks that have specific backgrounds in deaf education and teaching students with visual impairments, because right now you have 2 open director positions, principal positions, however you name it, those are open. And with those being open, it's going to be very difficult to ensure that quality instruction is going on in the classroom, because those folks are the boots on the ground that will go in and do those walkthroughs every day. So I think it's going to be a priority for whoever comes into this position to make sure that you assemble a strong team with strong knowledge in the nuances. A school for the deaf leader that understands what it means to be a bilingual model and understand that a deaf child's first language is visual. You need a leader in the school that understands those unique needs of a student with visual impairments, and understanding that a math teacher is fighting a battle when they're trying to do tactile graphics with a student and it doesn't make sense for that problem because they're not correct. So you need leaders with those specific knowledge sets, I think, at the school level. It's going to be very important. So for me, a priority would be actively recruiting those folks to get them in the schools so that we can ensure that a strong instructional model is in place. We want to make sure that we have quality IEPs, instructionally appropriate IEPs for those students. In order to do that, we need a solid pledge. We need present levels that make sense and that we understand exactly where each one of those students are at that particular time, so that those teachers can meet those requirements. And that's a common across any special education classroom. And then we also need to make sure that we give constant professional development to our teachers so that they are constantly being able to grow and maintain. We get our data from a really strong progress monitoring, some really strong progress monitoring tools. And so I would need to come in and make sure and see what type of things we have in place. I will tell you, if you're looking for somebody that's going to harp on end-of-year test data from the state, I'm not your guy. Because I understand the nuances that go into testing our specific populations. But what you will see is me talking about the growth of those students every single day in that classroom. And so we need to make sure that we have a system in place where we can measure that growth and then share that information with our stakeholders so that they can see that that test at the end of the year is not the only factor or not the only indicator of success, but what are our kids doing each and every day, and what are those teachers doing each and every day with those folks in the classroom. So I think it's going to be important to have strong IEPs, instructionally appropriate IEPs, and also just to make sure that we have strong instructional leaders in each one of those schools.
This next question goes to Ms. Williams first. The school district's budget reflects the superintendent's priorities. If we review the last budget that you created, what would stand out as your priorities?
Always an emphasis on instructional support. The focus would be definitely on human capital, because again, I've talked about it over and over again as it relates to children instruction. The focus has to be on making certain that we have the right people in position, and we're able to hire those individuals that are needed for the organization to be successful. And we know that the focus always has to be on students and their outcomes. What is best for students, and that is to ensure that we have a quality instructional program and framework in place. So my emphasis would definitely be on personnel and administration, but more so what's going to impact student achievement, be it technology, be it curriculum, but definitely human capital, getting those right people in position to make sure that we're providing the highest quality of instruction necessary for those students to be successful.
So I think if you looked at the Tennessee School for the blind budget, you would see a definite student focus. That's one of the reasons we were named the best for all district, is because of the way we took our ESSER dollars and really applied those to student-facing activities, like I get it mixed up every time. It's high dosage, low ratio. I sometimes transcribe those high dosage, low ratio tutoring, making sure that we have we're getting ready to do some curriculum adoptions. There's new math curriculum adoptions happening this year, so I've made sure to set aside money for those new math curriculum materials. But it's a very student-focused budget. Now, that student focus is heavy in personnel costs, much like your district, which is about 83–84% personnel. A large share of about $13.5 million of my $17.2 million goes to personnel, because it takes a lot to make these schools run. And I think when we're talking about budget, I think that the district's going to need an advocate that understands the nuances of running these schools, because you cannot run the state special schools on the minimum money provided on a per pupil basis from the state. So that's about between $2.5–3 million for this building. And there's no way that you can run these programs with that, because you have 24-hour operations. You have students with significant wraparound services. You have a clinic that runs 24 hours a day. You have a lot of things that cost a lot of money. And I think that one of the things that the leader's going to have to do is be able to talk to the legislature and the powers that be about that and the significant needs that we need, because ultimately part of telling the story is that folks understand how relevant you are to the overall continuum services for the kids in this state. And how you do that is you have to break it down. You have to let them know that I had a physics book that I provided a district that was $75,000 to transcribe, and it, by the way, it stands about this tall in Braille. And so you have to be able to let folks know that so they understand that the $37 million, or, you know, $37 million that is the budget of the special school district, what that goes to, what it entails, how it funds the state, the programs across the state, how much money you save districts by providing itinerant teachers where they don't have a vision or they don't have a hearing teacher. So provide, and really packaging that so that folks understand exactly what goes into educating the kids that are part of the special school district.
If you look at the budget at my current school, you would see that the majority of money is spent on teachers. I realize that in order for my babies to be able to have the highest quality education, that we have to invest first in the teachers. So one of the things that I did when I got to the school is I looked at teachers' salaries. We had to increase them because I wasn't competitive across the district. We were one of the lowest paid charter organizations, and then we were going up against the district, which paid even more. So what I did is I worked with my board to be able to increase the salaries for teachers, which meant we were now competitive up until the 10th year at the public school system. Once we got there, that was impossible for us to keep up with. But we knew that if we could get the best teachers and provide them a salary, that would make sense. The second thing that we did is once we were able to hire teachers, we had to switch curriculum to make sure that it was aligned to the goals that we had. Looking at our test scores, looking at just our student data, it was not up to par. And so we had to bring in curriculum and pay for all of that. The thing that we had to also do with our curriculum, knowing that it was new, was then reach out to the companies, reach out to my instructional coaches to be able to provide training for that curriculum. It's wonderful to have lots of books in the library, lots of science kits, things like that, but if no one actually knows how to use them, we're not actually servicing students. So the majority of my budget this year went to ensuring that we were able to find and hire high-quality teachers who would get paid what they deserve, to making sure that the curriculum that we purchased was used as it should have been, and then to make sure that we were able to find partnerships with another organization that would help us create assessments that would make sure that we were really providing that high education for our scholars. So the first thing we did, we hired those teachers, we used our curriculum, and then we are making sure that our curriculum is being taught so our scholars are learning what they should.
Sorry about that. If you are selected, will you be willing to learn American Sign Language, ASL? Do you believe teachers and staff who interact with deaf students should be proficient in ASL within 3 years of working at LSD?
Absolutely. I've already learned 3 words since I've been here today. So I'm going to attempt to try to use them at some point, not right now. Yeah, so when I was a
or 2 or 3 years worth of whatever foreign language you chose. Of course, I picked Spanish. However, that didn't work when I was down in Texas because all I could say were things like, do you know where the bathroom is? This is the library. And so what I started doing is I put Duolingo on my phone and started trying to learn the language. That helped me when I was working with kids because I could understand some of the things that they would say. You know, children will say sometimes slick things underneath their breath, and it helps to be able to know what that is. But it also helped me as I was trying to build relationships with families. Now, am I in any way fluent? No. But families were able to see that I cared enough about the place that I was going to be for only a year to try to learn how to better communicate with them. A lot of families say, Ms. Marsh, you don't have to, we will find a way. But they understood that I was trying to do that. In terms of teachers being able to learn it, yes. But I think what we have to do is we have to take any barriers out of the way of proficiency. What are the classes that we can find? What supports do we need to bring in to make sure that teachers are proficient within those 3 years? Because in doing so impacts our scholars in a positive way. If it allows us to better talk to our scholars, talk to our parents, talk to other stakeholders, that's something that every teacher should be working on doing and that all members of the leadership should do as well.
So I absolutely embrace becoming as proficient as I can in ASL. Now, I'm not going to kid myself. The older I get, the harder things are to learn. I don't know if I would be proficient in 3 years, but I will definitely give it a good college try. So, but now, as it relates to staff members, you know, it's difficult to recruit staff members. I've had this conversation a couple of times today, and, you know, when you're looking for an algebra teacher to teach algebra in the classroom, it's going to be difficult to find that algebra teacher that understands or can be fluent in ASL. So we have to bring that support along with that teacher initially. The same thing happens at the School for the Blind. I don't have teachers typically that are content area teachers coming to the School for the Blind understanding Braille, the Nemeth code, or UED math. It just doesn't happen. So we put together the supports, and I did my doctoral dissertation on mentoring, and we make sure that those teachers have a strong mentor that understands their content area and understands the needs within those content areas so that they can make those materials accessible to that student. So I believe that, you know, I read the report from 2018 a couple of times by now. And one of the things talks about the bilingual approach in the School for the Deaf and how there needs to be a systematic approach to making sure that you're implementing the bilingual model with fidelity. Now, to be honest with you, I don't know how far down the road or down this train we are at this point. That would be something I need to make sure. But part of that bilingual approach is making sure that you have a staff that is fluent in ASL. And so I can't honestly, I'm not going to sit here and pretend that I know someone can become completely fluent in a new language in 3 years. But what I can say is we will put those supports in place and those expectations in place that they do become proficient in ASL in order to meet the needs of our students. Because as we talked several times today, things get lost in translation sometimes. And those connections with kids can get confusing when they're getting different signals. And we also understand, you know, I know that the practice used to be SIMCOM, right? You speak and sign at the same time. But words have different meanings, and it doesn't always translate. Because whoever takes this job needs to understand that ASL is a different language than English. And they need to be able to understand that the language is visual for these students, and then we bring in the English piece. But yes, and it is mentioned in the report a specific way that you may want to go look at the proficiency and how proficiency is judged now versus how it should. When reports like this happen and you have experts come into a building, you need to make sure that you really take a look at the results and use them. So I don't know how far along we are with moving forward with a lot of the things in this report, but it's something we need to take a look at. But yes, I will definitely try to learn as best I can, and take those ASL classes. And definitely make an expectation that our staff, whatever that time frame is, and again, I don't know if that's 3 years, I don't know if it's 2 years, but we need to make sure that we are realistic and provide the support that they need to become fluent.
Absolutely. I definitely would make the effort and trying my best to learn ASL. But more specifically as it relates to the requirement of 3 years as it relates to our teachers or staff, it again requires support. And it was alluded to by the previous applicant. We have to supply the support that is necessary to make sure that those teachers are successful. An example I have, and it's of course with Texas and the large population that I serve, 90% Hispanic population that spoke, of course, Spanish with their native language, what have you, and I served as the superintendent, as well as the principal of that particular campus, and then the superintendent of that particular district. What we did supply, because you have a lot of individuals that were not bilingual, sheltered instruction of the SIOP model, so there were strategies that were put in place to support those individuals, that will support those students with those special needs. And that's what needs to happen for us as well. Me as a potential superintendent, but as well as those staff members that are not proficient as in ASL. It's an exciting opportunity and to make it motivational as a part of our culture and climate. More specific, the culture of the way we do things, embrace learning new things, and make it exciting for our staff that are not proficient to become proficient, but ideally supplying them the support that they need in the form of strategies to make sure that they are supporting our students in the way that they need to be supported. But ideally, yes, I would definitely want to learn, as well as encourage that we do have staff that are targeting completion in 3 years.
Go on with our last question. So this will be our last question. This will be our last question. Why do you want to become the next superintendent for the Louisiana Special School District?
So I had to go first on the $1 million question. I don't get to listen to what these fine folks had to say first. You know, I'm a very student-centered leader. I just want to do good things for kids. And I think that I've had the opportunity to gain some very valuable experience over the last 6 years at the Tennessee School for the Blind. But I have to remember that that is only one population that the special school district serves. We serve several different populations in many programs. And I have to be a leader for all of those programs. And in order to do that, I have to be someone that listens. Listens to the stakeholders, listens to the parents, listens to the faculty and staff, listens to the community members. I went digging before coming up here this weekend on Facebook. So I saw some of the discourse that was going on Facebook. And I understand people, I think, somehow feel marginalized at this point in certain communities. And I have to be a leader that serves all of the communities that these school districts serve. And I think that, again, when I came to TSB, I was not an expert in vision, and nor do I claim to be an expert in vision now. But I guarantee you I'm a strong advocate for that community. And I fight tooth and nail to get the resources that my teachers need to do good things in the classroom for kids. And I would bring that same sensibility with me here to Louisiana, understanding what I don't know and figuring out what I do need to know, and then going to the people that can provide me that information. Thank you.
From my first day as a teacher in the 2009-2010 school year, I've been an advocate. I advocated for the scholars in my classroom. As I've moved up in my educational career, I've advocated for the scholars that either fall in my program, those that fall in my school, or those that fall in my district. In my work as an attorney, I advocated for kids to ensure that they had the best IEPs for them. We had to fight districts tooth and nail to say we have to give these children these things because this is what they deserve. I like to continue the work of advocacy where we're putting students first if I become the superintendent of the special school district. Knowing that my entire educational career has been focused on students, I hope that you pick me because I know that I would do what's best for our kids. I'm familiar with Louisiana. I've both been a special education teacher in Louisiana, been a district administrator in Louisiana, and I'm familiar with what IEPs look like from both the parent side, because my daughter has an IEP, as well as on the teacher and administrator side. I want to be able to work with parents and families to let them know that the Kennedy factor, which is what I have, which means that I would feel comfortable putting my child in any of these schools, is what we can bring to this district. I hope that you all choose me for this position because I have a passion for it, the desire to continue this work in the state of Louisiana, and the education to continue this work. Thank you.
As a native of Louisiana and a product of a family full of educators, this is my passion, this is my purpose. I was called to do the work that I do. That being said, I have found much joy in seeing the success and the outcomes of those students that they said could not, that I knew could. I bring passion, I bring leadership skills, and I bring the success of my ancestors, those that came before me. I find it almost a calling for me to make sure that this school tells its own narrative. I've read various narratives and heard people say various things about the community and the school. But the work that I've heard that is going on right now and things that have happened in the past still need to be told. You have teachers here that are so passionate about the work that they're doing. And it needs to be someone who's going to motivate them and inspire them to continue to do the work they do, but also bring in innovation and a new mindset that's going to shift a change, a transformation. Understand that I can't change your mind, that the genesis of change begins from within. There's only one person who can shift a mindset, and that's that particular person. We can motivate and inspire those to do things that are unimaginable, and our students can do that with the appropriate support, the right teachers in place, the right curriculum in place, and also providing them the resources that they need to be successful. This is what I was called to do, and I look forward to the opportunity to serve, because I consider myself a servant leader and serve this community.
Okay, I want to thank each candidate for answering the questions today. Should have brought a lot of information and a perspective to our audience members of everybody's past backgrounds and what they currently do. So I want to thank you for taking the time to answer those questions. Great job. Ms. Pat with the public comment cards.
Madam President,
Yes, sir.
just a question. There's not a motion currently on the floor, so what are we taking public comment on?
I think, we just had, they wanted to give the audience the opportunity to just make a comment regarding the candidates before we go.
Okay, I'm not disagreeing, I just, the last meeting, we were very specific that public comment had to be specific to the motion that was on the floor, so I just wanted to.
Ronnie? Yes.
Yeah, just wanted to remind members that the motion on the floor is to entertain public interviews of candidates by the board. So that is the motion on the floor. So we've had those public interviews, and now we've got an opportunity for public comment.
Okay, so during public comment, it's just a comment, and if you have a specific question, it would not be able to be answered, correct? So it's just a comment. And you have 3 minutes to make your comment. Okay, I see a lot of questions.
Madam President, if I may speak,
Yes,
those were questions that I had for individual candidates during the public comment time, but now with the clarification of what has been spoken, then I will, I'm satisfied with what I've heard from the.
okay, thank you. Okay, I have Jerry Hilk.
Ms. Hill, card containing questions so that she was satisfied with the question.
Okay. Okay, so at this time, these are all questions that had to be asked, and there were no comments. Making sure.
Do you want the timer on, Josh, do you want the timer on the, board?
Yeah, I'm just making sure, it just says I have questions to ask. I have questions to be asked. Nothing, a question, and then another question. So basically, we just move on, Ronnie?
Madam President,
Yes.
might be appropriate at this time to give our new legal counsel an opportunity to comment here
Okay.
and provide appropriate guidance.
Okay.
Can I be recognized first? I think maybe people misunderstood and put their comments as in a form of a question, but perhaps some of those people just want to make a comment, so maybe we just need to direct people on how we need to proceed, if they do in fact want to make a comment.
Okay, so if y'all wanna go ahead and give us a little guidance here so that we do it correctly, and then I'll go back through the questions, or through the comments.
That was very close to what I was going to say. Ordinary public comment is just that, it's not a question and answer session of the candidates, but if anyone here filled out a card with questions on it, wants to make a comment relative to that topic, this would be the time to do it.
Thank you very much. Okay, I have Nigel. Would you like to make a comment?
Yes, I would like to make a comment. Can you see me okay? Can you see me in the back? We're good? Okay. This is Nigel again. I really enjoyed the time of watching the interviews and your answering of the questions, and I find it very interesting how one candidate has very specific answers and hit all of the marks about that the deaf and the blind communities need. That's very interesting. And the other two made very good comments about the school and about the academics. And overall, I think that that's great. I was just curious if we can, more specific to the process, about the board letting the public then ask questions so that they can answer, since they are going to be joining us as superintendent, serving the schools and the community. So what do you think about that? Thank you.
Okay, Annabelle, you chose not to. Candy Gasper.
I need more time. I'm going to change my question. I need just a little more time
So make sure
to make it a comment.
Okay, okay.
May I go last?
Yes, you may. Jay.
Jay is saying, I have questions, and the board should allow the stakeholders, the parents, the staff, the students, or whomever, to ask questions instead of closing that window on us. We should be allowed to ask questions.
Okay, Jimmy.
I have a comment.
So make sure everyone gets me well, thank you. First of all, my public comment, my name is Jimmy Shellis Gore, and I'm the president of the Louisiana Association for the Deaf. I'm also on the board of director of LDS. We've been here for a long time now. We've been in existence since 115 years. And the Louisiana Association of the Deaf was established by the alumni of this school. And the purpose of our association was to provide advocacy for the children and to make sure that the school followed the right of the children in their education. And so today I carry this torch, all this history behind me, and I bring it with me to this board meeting. We have already sent a letter as an acting president to the acting superintendent. Actually, we've sent 4 letters and we've never received a response back. So the community has a lot of concern, wanted to meet with the acting superintendent. The board member of SSD has not spoken to us, meeting with us. We've been wanting to partner and work with the school, but we've been repeatedly ignored. And it's been very frustrating for the members of the community to be shut down. And then today, you as a board member can ask questions, and then you can allow the public to speak, but instead you are shutting us out. I don't feel respected that way. The 3 individuals should have an opportunity to answer our questions, and we don't get to hear their voices, they don't hear ours, which is unfortunate. So LAD stands for the children. We advocate for those children since we've been doing so for 115 years now. And now we are being shut out of this process. So we hope that the new superintendent will be able to partner with us, connect back with the community statewide. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Okay, and let's see. Candy.
I graduated from LC in 1998. I that you all, the one who is hired, will take the opportunity to learn ASL and be able to talk one-on-one with the students here on campus and with the staff who are deaf. Another thing is that since August, several of the students, the LSD students, have not had any speech therapy. And it is on their IEP that they would receive the services, but there's been no speech therapy provided to them. That's not good. And I was hoping that somehow you would be able to resolve that, and I was hoping that you would be able to hire the personnel who would be able to provide those services to those students. And also for the blind students as well. We can't leave them out, and deafblind students as well.
Okay, that's the last comment card that I have. All right, we are gonna go on to B, under agenda item 3. Consideration of the candidates. Ronnie?
Madam Chair, I'd like to offer a motion that the board move to executive session to consider the candidates.
Okay. Are there any objections? Okay, thank you. All right, Pat, will you do a roll call for us?
All right, Glenn,
I agree to go into executive session.
Crosby,
Yes.
Polozola. Yes. Bell. Burton.
Yes.
Jones is not in attendance. Morris.
Yes.
Smith, Vicky.
She is not here.
Oh. Okay, Annis,
Yes.
Smith, Mary,
Yes.
Davis,
Yes.
Muslow Hicks is not in attendance.
Okay, so there are no objections, so we can move to executive session at this time.